Guys, Mr. Moore just getting you ready to take some notes. We're going to start looking at westward expansion and the area of the Southwest. Okay, so a few things to look at here. We want to concentrate on the main idea of the physical features of the land in the West, in the Southwest. How did that contribute to um, the region? Okay, how did it impact people, right? Okay, so as an example, we've got the Mississippi River. It divides the United States into two parts. These two regions are not equal in size. Okay, the area west of the Mississippi River is larger than the area to the east. Let me show you a graphic of that. So here is the Mississippi dividing the east and the west. Okay, keep in mind at this point we had the northeast and the southeast. Okay, and you had people expanding up and down the Mississippi River. Okay, but aside from some trappers, traders, and mountain men exploring these different areas, there were other countries that owned parts of the West. Okay, so their early explorers had claimed those areas. They weren't part of the United States at this point. Okay, so go ahead and get a pen, paper, pencil, whatever you need. Let's start taking some notes. Okay, and we're going to start looking at westward expansion. Pause this anytime you guys need to, also. Okay, I move a little fast, so if you have more things you need to write down, make sure you're stopping it or going back if you need. Okay, so let's look at landforms first. The Southwest has portions of Oklahoma and Texas that make up the southern portion of what we call the Great Plains. Okay, New Mexico has a landscape very similar to Colorado, with plains in the east, the Rocky Mountains in the central portion, and dry, arid deserts in the west. Arizona is known for its hot, dry weather, deserts, and sandy, dry grasslands. Okay, the Grand Canyon is also located in Arizona. All right, so what is westward expansion? Well, that's the movement of people from the east to the west, okay, across the Mississippi and into other regions. Okay, why did people begin to move west? Well, several reasons, and we're going to list them all here for you, and then we'll go into more detail on each one of these as we go through our notes. Okay, so make sure you write all these down. Make sure you write down why did people begin moving west. You may want to pause on this and make sure you have it all written. Okay, after the American Revolution, white Americans began exploring the West, which led to the Louisiana Purchase from France in 1803. Okay, there was also the concept of manifest destiny that held that the United States had the right to extend its boundaries, resulting in more westward expansion. Okay, the manifest destiny was actually a concept. People actually believed that it was God's will that the United States be expanded from east coast to at the Atlantic all the way to the west coast at the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so that's why they considered it to be a big thing. All right. Mountain men had explored the region and traded with natives while trapping animals such as beavers for pelts. Okay, mountain men began actually trading and trapping, and they would actually sell these pelts back to Europe. So this was an export; it was an industry for them. Okay. Then we have what we call the Homestead Act. Okay, gave pioneers land after 5 years. So this was something that President Lincoln came up with. Okay, he signed this act so that people would begin moving west, and to encourage that, he gave them land after they settled it, farmed it, and lived there for 5 years. Okay, gold and silver were discovered in the West. So we had the California Gold Rush, the Alaska Gold Rush. All right, other areas such as Colorado where silver and gold were found. Okay, and then we have what we call the Transcontinental Railroad. So this was a railroad that connected basically from Missouri and Kansas all the way to California. So we called it the Transcontinental Railroad, and this was also an act that President Lincoln signed. So really interesting stuff, lots to cover here. So let's get into it. All right, westward expansion greatly affected the history of the region. The first people to live in the West were Native American tribes, each with its own culture. Many were nomadic, meaning they moved around, but others lived in permanent settlements. Okay, so if I'm going to write something for notes on this page, I would write down anything in yellow here. Okay, anything highlighted. The Spanish were the first Europeans to arrive in the region beginning in 1598. They began founding settlements. Okay, so remember we had the Spaniards. Okay, the Spanish were some of the earliest explorers of this region. Okay, and as they explored further south and further west, they claimed those territories. So at some point, the Spanish owned a large portion of what we call the United States today. So we're talking California, Nevada, Utah, parts of Colorado, New Mexico, Texas. Okay, Spanish priests established missions, okay, or church-based communities where they tried to convert Native Americans to Christianity and to Spanish culture. French explorers also explored and claimed lands west of the Mississippi. Okay, and we'll see a map of that coming up here. All right. After the Louisiana Territory was purchased from France in 1803, the land between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains belonged to the United States. By the 1830s, some Americans believed in the concept of manifest destiny, that the United States had a right to control all or most of North America to the Pacific coast. This concept led to a push in westward expansion. Okay, the Louisiana Territory, you guys can see a map up here. All of that in green is what we're talking about. This is the Louisiana Territory. Okay, the French did not have a true sense of how much land they were given in the trade and what resources there were on the land. Okay, we're talking at 825 or 27,000 square miles for around 15 million US dollars. Okay, Thomas Jefferson purchased this area, and as a result, the deal was very profitable for the U.S. The most concerning problem the U.S. faced was control of the port areas and transport of goods on the Mississippi River. Okay, so if we look at that green area and the brown area on the map, you can see that dividing line is the Mississippi River. So we used the Mississippi to export goods from the south and the north, okay, send them back to Europe. And if we did not have control of the Louisiana Green Territory, then it was hard to control the ports in areas such as Louisiana, okay? So this was really important that the U.S. basically control the entire Mississippi River, okay? This purchase ensured American export and trade possibilities while keeping the Spanish from claiming rights to this vital area. Okay, so what did the Spanish actually own? Well, that area in pink is all Spanish territory, okay, and at some point, a large portion of that blue on the map, okay, Texas predominantly, was owned by the Spanish, all right? So at that time, we didn't want the Spanish coming in and taking that territory from France and claiming the Mississippi and controlling our export, right? We wanted to be able to send goods and things to Europe, all right? All right. I know I'm moving fast, so like I said, if you need to stop and pause, guys, take good notes, all right? Lewis and Clark. Lewis and Clark, with the purchase of this territory, the land of the U.S. nearly doubled in size. Unaware of what was in the Northwest, Jefferson sent Lewis and Clark on an expedition from St. Louis, Missouri to the Oregon Territory. Okay? They were accompanied by a mountain man named Toussaint Charbonneau, who was hired as an Indian translator. Yet he had a young wife. Her name was Sacagawea. She was a Native American or native of the Shoshone tribe. Okay, she proved to be more valuable in negotiating with Indian tribes than Toussaint was. Okay, together they mapped the area and cataloged many plants and animals along their way. Okay, after Lewis and Clark made their expedition, the U.S. claimed the Oregon Territory as well. The only problem with this is that Great Britain also had claimed the area of Oregon. Okay, so Oregon, Washington, up in that region. All right. So this is the Oregon Territory. Okay. So this was owned by Great Britain at the time, and we claimed it when Lewis and Clark explored the area. Okay, so this brought on a little bit of a conflict. Obviously, we'd purchased the Louisiana Territory. We were having some issues in the west as far as Spain, and then also on top of that, you have we had to negotiate with Great Britain. So, to negotiate this portion of the United States, we signed what is called the Oregon Treaty. A treaty is an agreement between two countries, right? Okay, so between this treaty is between the United Kingdom, Great Britain, and the United States that was signed on June 15th, 1846. This treaty brought an end to the Oregon boundary by settling competing American and British claims to the area, which had been jointly occupied by both Britain and the U.S. since the Treaty of 1818. Okay, so this just officially made the Oregon Territory part of the U.S. as well. Okay, so 1803 we purchased the Louisiana Purchase. Essentially, what we've done is double the size of the United States now. Okay, this area is unsettled. There's not a lot of, there's no cities or anything like that. There's not a lot of things that are established. You may have some trading outposts, but for the most part, the people who lived in these regions were still native people. Okay. All right. So people begin moving west towards Oregon. All right. So this is what we call the Oregon Trail. It goes from St. Louis. Okay, give you a second to find that on the map. St. Louis in Missouri, okay, all the way to Oregon. Okay. So the Oregon Trail was a route traveled by missionaries in 1834. That's a religious group, okay? Merchant Nathan Wythe led the first missionary group where they built an outpost in what we call Idaho today, all right? Marcus Whitman was another man who was determined to spread Christianity to American Indians on the frontier. He was a doctor and Protestant missionary. Marcus Whitman set out on horseback from the Northeast in 1835 to prove that the Westward Trail to Oregon could be traversed safely and further than ever before. Okay, so think of this as like another pilgrim, right? The original pilgrims came from Europe and settled in what we call New England, right? Massachusetts, and they wanted to have their own religious beliefs, right? Well, this is another Protestant group that is moving to the west and hoping to spread Christianity to the natives and really essentially establish their own area in Oregon. Okay? On his second expedition, Whitman headed west again. He met up with a huge wagon train, okay, destined for Oregon. The group included 120 wagons, about 1,000 people, and thousands of horses, cattle, whatever livestock they had. Okay, their trek began on May 22nd, and it lasted for 5 months. Okay, it effectively opened the floodgates of pioneer migration along the Oregon Trail and became known as the Great Emigration of 1843. So these were people taking wagons, taking their entire family, taking their livestock. They would go down the trail, which was not easy. They had to pass through native territories. Okay, they had to pass through rivers, which was very difficult. Moving livestock across a large river is not an easy task. They had to travel across the Rocky Mountains, okay, and they had to do all of this while dealing with the seasons, right? It took them 5 months, so a lot of people died in this emigration, okay. And there were a lot of people that this is just very, very difficult thing. They didn't have any permanent structures. They didn't have hotels or any place they could stay, right? They were out there on the trail, wooden wagons, right? If you lost a wheel or something, you basically left the wagon there, and you just kept moving. So, big thing for people to travel that Oregon Trail. If they needed more food and supplies, they didn't have cities or places where they could necessarily get supplies. So they had to hunt. They had to find ways of making this transition and this migration to Oregon. So, really awesome stuff. So, that's going to be it for today, guys. Hopefully, you've got enough information there. You can definitely take some good notes. Okay, I want you to make sure you are staying on top of this. You want to make sure you're writing everything I have highlighted. But I would also take some time to put some of those details in as well. Okay. So if you have questions for me, please email, and we will convene on Monday again, same time, same deal, and we'll continue with our notes. And I hope you guys have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye.